a friend from Boston was talking about the quick hands and catching stuff off a counter and things like that. That's just like one of those like crazy skills where you could almost spot another beard eye player just by how they handle themselves and something like that. But
For the past 3 decades, I have had a not so secret obsession simmering beneath the layers of an average American life. The time has come to seek the community of like minded true believers. This is the road to Beard Eye Nation. Episode 4 Blinded by the Lights. In the first 3 episodes of this series, we covered the who, what, and how to help set the stage for our eventual journey to the wheres and whens along the road to Beard Eye Nation. But before we can credibly ask you to join us for this pilgrimage, it's only fair to answer the question of why. I mean, what type of event plants an idea in a person's head such that they no longer see something the same and are called to act? Well, in the last episode, I mentioned that the smartest guy any of us went to school with visited me in North Carolina recently to teach my new friends Beard Eye. He'd also visited me buzz years earlier when we taught a different set of my new friends Beard Eye. I recounted this to none other than the Pope of Beard Eye as we discussed this project. And I called in all the favors that I had with people and I gave them the elevator pitch. And I want to ask you about that after I get done telling you this. I want to hear you
yeah,
talk about it. But I was just kind of talking to them about what it would be and this and that. And one of them said, I don't really like to drink beer. And I'm like, whatever, we'll get over it. I just had to get the games going, right? And we did it and it was fun and we got obliterated and it was terrible and fun at the same time, all that stuff, right?
just like it
So
always is, right?
yeah, right. So there was one guy in my neighborhood who I didn't invite because he was sort of new and it wasn't like on fully on my radar. You know what I mean? It was just one of those things that didn't, our relationship wasn't quite there
You want to do
at
some, you
that
want to
point,
see me
right?
throw up in a trash can in my
So
garage?
so from that time, yeah. So fast forward a few months where we've gotten to that point where he would have, you know what I mean? Like we have other times where we hung out. He's in my garage helping me with something because he's an electrician, so he just knows everything about everything. He's one of those guys.
Okay.
And he sees the table. He's like, "You play Biadai?" And I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
And he was like, he said he grew up playing it in Massachusetts, like in high school, and when he was in trade school, he would just go visit his friends at different UMass campuses playing Beard Eye, hanging out, whatever,
Awesome.
right? And so one night I rustle up a different couple of guys to come and play and barely got us to four, but I somehow got us to four. And we played his rules and my rules with these two guys who'd never played before.
Okay.
And so I was like, so we got done we get done at like 2 in the morning, right? Like you would imagine. And I'm wired. I'm so wired up from having this experience of playing a different version of Beard Eye because I assumed that just we played Beard Eye the way everybody played Beard Eye.
Sure.
And then there weren't a lot of people that played Beard Eye. You know what I mean? So whatever. That's just how my narrow view of the world was. Different rules does not do justice to the transformation of the table when we switched to my friend's rules from Massachusetts. We raised the table up about a foot as his game is played standing and turned the table over to the blank side. You see, the side we'd been using was littered with Sharpie signatures of people who'd thrown sinks. He grabbed a tape measure and drew a mid-court line across the table with a Sharpie, followed by parallel lines on either side of it a few feet away that were proportionally like where blue lines would be on a hockey rink. He measured from the corners a few inches and traced circles where the beers would be placed. No cup check arguments in his game. And then he strung a clothesline about 8 feet off the ground, plumb to the midline. So I guess no low call disputes in his game either. His blue lines so to speak, marked the scoring zone where if a die exited uncaught was a point. And this scoring zone is obviously much bigger than ours, where it's either the baseline or the sideline if it goes around the cup. But when you're standing up, you can cover more ground. So it made sense. His game was played to biz. I can't remember how many drinks there were per cup, but there was some type of brutal drink multiplier after a sink, which he called a sinker. And if I'm pronouncing that properly, it's sinka. The multiplier involved rolling the die after it had exited the cup, which is customarily accomplished by spitting it out on the table. That's true in all game formats, as an aside. But the number shown on the die represented some sort of extra drinks you had to take right then and there. You could also throw the die overhand or underhand in his game, but there was one other significant rule difference that I had to bring up to the Pope when we were talking. When I played with my friend's rules that night, he had one rule that was if you missed the table completely, it was OB. It was like OB for us. So if you miss a table completely, there was no penalty to doing that. And that completely changed the game because I basically could cup hunt and corner hunt with impunity. Like I couldn't, there was no penalty.
What was exactly
There was
right?
zero penalty. And that's a big, like, I think that's a big flaw in the way that his rules work.
I
Because
agree. I'm
if you
going for
have
the
no
2 yard
penalty for
line.
going to the corner, what are we talking about here, right?
I'm picking my weak link on the team, and I am trying the 2 yard line every single toss.
Every time I have nothing, I have no, it's like we've run
There's
out of
no
beer, but we're
penalty.
still
Yeah.
playing, you know?
Yeah, reality, it's this multiplicity. You've got a copy of a copy of a copy that's being distributed across the country.
Right. But you think that yours is special, right? Well, ours is special, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
for
that's a
later.
different
That's for
conversation.
His Excellency's measured response to the notion of other people playing Beard Eye differently than we did makes sense. And we touched on this topic a few times in previous episodes, and I'm going to remind you of real quick.
Like him and I tripped into a game outside of Soldier Field years ago, but it was different. It was guys that knew Lake Forest dudes. They knew some Brotherhood guys that we went to school with, and then but they played standing up, and some of the rules were different. And you kind of had to, all right, well, this isn't the real thing, but it's good enough, you know. So I mean, it was fun, but it was just like a natural like we saw it and kind of like our eyes both lit up. We're like, dude, they're playing die over there. Like we gotta go. You know, and then you're like, all right, we got next. And they're like, do you even know the rules? We're like, shut up, just get out of the way. We got this, you know. So the game just kind of happens, you know.
There are rows and rows and rows of aisles of people camping. Walking down the aisle of this general mission camping at this music festival, and I see these guys playing die. And I stop and we're comparing rules, and they're very different from the pure game that I learned at Lake Forest College.
All right, so it's my first job out of school. I'm a college football coach at a Division III program. The defense coordinator who hires me, we go through, you know, kind of the install and all, like you spend all that time together during the summer and like learn like on the run up and start talking. One day we're having a few drinks like after work, and he was like, "Hey man, like so, what was your game of choice? You know, or you know, like what did you guys play at Lake Forest? Like what was it?" And I was like, "It was Beard Eye." He was like, "My man, that's exactly like that. That say no more." He was like, "Fuck beer pong. Beer pong's for pussies." Like straight up, like the straight up tagline. I was like, "Okay, perfect." And we've been friends since.
I had a similar experience with my brother-in-law where, you know, he played that at William and Mary, and I had no idea, would never have thought he was a Beard Eye guy or anything like that. And they had this vacation with a bunch
That's
of
in Williamsburg.
Yeah. So
yeah,
he's from
wow.
Williamsburg, right? But
tell me more.
So, but he now was married to my sister-in-law, and she was showing a video from vacation where they were playing this drinking game, right? And I'm like, this guy plays beer die. So we get down the farm. I'm like, hey, listen, I saw a video. I didn't realize you played beer die. I play beer die too. Right? And the guy's like, no kidding. It's like we literally same thing, pain in the ass, but went up into the rafters of the barn on the farm there and found, what made do as a singles table essentially, but it was crap. But we were just kind of like, let's do the same thing. We'll play the first game with your rules, and then we'll play second game with my rules, and learn a little bit about.
As I recalled to the Pope earlier, measured is not the adjective I would use to describe how I responded to my introductory brush with the prospect of a beer die multiverse. While what I experienced fell short of being blinded by the light on the road to Damascus, I was definitely somethinged by the 10 to 15 Miller lights that were now allowing me to envision the road to Beer Die Nation. After my playing partners left that night around 2 a.m., I was absolutely wired and felt viscerally compelled to recap the experience with someone to whom it would matter and also might actually be awake. I don't know if you remember from last episode, one of the true believers who committed instantly to coming to North Carolina to teach my new friends beer die a few months ago, but I texted that same person in California, and he said his daughter, who was probably biz or buzz years old at the time, maybe even younger, was asleep in his arms after failing to get through family movie night. So my obvious response right then was, so I can call you, right? He agreed because I think my excitement was flying through the text that I sent him somehow, because I don't use emojis or didn't then. I grabbed my headphones and took my dog for a walk several times around my dormant neighborhood, recounting this experience to this person who I had partnered with for the beer die tournament at our school my senior year. My adrenal fire clearly lit up by something more than a gallon or so of Milwaukee's Best. But this gets back to what I was talking to you about. So when I started looking at this, I'm like, oh, I started looking into, well, what is the history of this? You know what I mean? Like, what's written about this? Has anyone written a book about this, right? Because my thought, this is back in like 2018. My thought was like, what if I wrote the book of beer die, as just something to do? And I did a little bit of research and I realized that there's not a lot of solid stuff out there about it, which why would there be, right? Why would there be a documented history of a drinking game, But there's also not many drinking games that are as layered and as complicated, as this
It's
one.
a drinking sport, right?
While we've spent the last 2 hours of your life hammering home the merits of beer die as a game, we are also fascinated by beer die as a cultural movement, albeit a small one. In this world of the mass recording of every ounce of life and the permanent documentation and storage of everything, how many phenomena have spread through the country without, to our knowledge at this point, being chronicled in some fashion? And of those things, how many are about an activity that served as a major part of the framework for how we've related as friends for 3 decades? That Venn diagram has a tiny intersection, and I think it features beer die alone. So since we cannot spend myriad hours together anymore, killing a myriad of brain cells playing beer die, we figured we would get together and chronicle the wheres and whens, and maybe even some of the other whys and hows of this game we love as it spread across the country. And I started researching this, and I read the Wikipedia page about beer die, and I was like, this is bullshit. This is all fake information. No one knows. No one's written about this, right? And so what you guys see in that folder that I put together was just me doing research to kind of figure out who are the other crazy people out here, and could I collect their stories and what they've done and how it's spread or I don't know. I'm not sure, but that was sort of what I was going at. So that's what that stuff is. It's a loose collection of stuff from when I kicked this up in I want to say this was 2017, 2018 timeframe. And it's the kind of thing that has never stopped gnawing at me, right? And there's nothing in my life that I'm the least bit evangelical about, right? The least bit saying to people I don't know, hey, maybe you like this, you know? I've made contact with 4 people, 5 different people about this. And then having a product out there that they can see as a real thing might get them to be like, oh, this is pretty cool. I want to be a part of this. Right.
It's the same. You're recruiting people to get involved the same way you would recruit somebody to come play. It's the same. The nuances are the same.
That's exactly why the first episode is called the elevator pitch. That's the double entendre, baby. You got it. You're right there. But it wasn't working. Here's the story of it before I reached out. Like, I wanted to have 5 episodes before I even showed you guys. What I would do is I'd send email, I'd reach out to these people and I'd get something positive back. And the second email was, yeah, whatever. Thank you. Anytime. I'm available. Here's my 9 stories up link so you can see what I do and what I am. And that wasn't, and then it would be fucking crickets. I think instead of saying, here's my 9 stories up link, here's the documentary, this is already going on. Now do you want to talk to me?
I was talking to a buddy of mine this week I used to work with, and this topic all came up. And he and I had spoken that he was from Boston, but he was saying that, you know, he first saw the game 91 at Amherst, but he was saying it's really screwed up right now because the thing to do in Boston for the high school graduation party is to throw like a beer dye event in people's backyards. And his 18-year-old kid is trying to convince him to host a beer dye party for high school graduates. I found myself really conflicted hearing him talking about that and being like, man, and yet it seems somewhat hypocritical to me, in as much as by like 19, I was, you know, heavily drinking in this game in a college environment. But it's amazing and astonishing to me that this game, at least in that localized area, has gotten to where it's like adapted by the high schoolers. It's an interesting thing to really kind of sit there and go, I don't know. I certainly appreciated this guy's concern, who's like going back to playing beer dye in the 90s at Amherst and being like, I'm not comfortable with this at my house with a bunch of 18-year-olds, right?
The stories of this game are out there. The movement attracting a fresh crop of devotees as a successive generation comes of age from coast to coast. If you will forgive yet another Field of Dreams reference on this podcast, because it seems like we have one every episode, we have plowed under our corn and built the place where people will come to tell these stories. But before we can help tell your story, it is only fair that we start with our own. The rise and fall of beer dye at Lake Forest College on the next episode of The Road to Beer Dye Nation.
Where the challengers strut their stuff. Red Solo cups and dice that fly.
The Road to Beer Dye Nation is produced by the 9 Stories Up Investigative Department in association with Beanbag Studios. If you think you know a true believer, please let them know about the show. If you think you may be a true believer, please give us a Biz Star rating. If you think you may be part of the choir, please reach out to us via email at beerdyenationpodcast@gmail.com or Beer Dye Nation on the major social media outlets, so we can tell your story in a future episode. The first Beer Dye Nation live reunion is taking place this July in the Chicago area. Please email us for more details or check out our website, beerdyenation.com. As always, I'd like to thank the Choir of True Believers, who have added another to their ranks. And not only will he be featured in an upcoming episode, but is clearly comfortable with the idea of a new generation of beer dye players rising to carry the flame.
Early Sunday morning, usually that 24-hour grace period, Monday morning, I was good to go. And being like, dang, I'm still feeling this 24 hours later. That was the first sign that my run was over.
The shoes were going to get needed to get their tires.
The breakfast buffet at Stanley's wasn't going to help you?
Exactly. I needed when I needed the breakfast Stanleys on Mondays still, and I was 24. I was like 24 hours clear of my tomfoolery. I was like, okay, my life might need a little slight redirection.